Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. Now we begin the next set of panel discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, I take the opportunity to first welcome a moderator, Mr. Shardul Fadnavis, Managing Director. And welcome back. Now we begin the next set of panel. Shardul is a managing director with PwC India's energy practice. He has led and held key roles in several digital transformation projects in the energy sector, focused on smart metering, AMI, meter data management, customer engagement, customer operations, and work. And he has led and held key roles in several digital transformation projects in the energy sector.
There is an echo.
Mr. Shardul was with PwC US for about 12 years, and where he worked with the power and utilities clients in North America to help transform their businesses, leveraging digital technologies. Our first panelist, Mr. Yogesh Kumar, Superintending Engineer and Nodal Officer, Smart Meter, Uttar Pradesh Power Corporation Limited, UPPCL, Shakti Bhavan, Lucknow, UP, India. We have Mr. Wayne Van Eyck, Director, Oracle Energy and Oracle, delivering critical enterprise solutions and industry and experience for utilities, including smart technology, digitalization, and customer engagement. Global experience across industry, solution strategy and architecture, implementation support and specialist solution consulting. Recent our next panelist, we have Ms. Beryl Lopez, Country Business Head, Grid Software, General Manager, Siemens. Our next panelist, we have Ms. Beryl
Hey guys, do you want me to come in?
Mr. Kamal Sen, Chief Technology Officer, Esyasoft. Mr. Rene Boeringer, co-founder of CUCULUS and part of the management team. Chief Technology Officer, co-founder of CUCULUS and part of the management team. All right, last but not the least, Mr. Alfred Manohar, Business Development and Strategy Director. Over to you, to the moderator. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I think we're hearing some echo from somewhere. So if the IT team could figure that one out, but sounds like it's gone now. So that's good news. All right, so I think we should get started, right? And what better time to start diving deep into the technology components than post lunch, right? I mean, pre-lunch we were talking about big picture strategy stuff. Now that we've all grabbed our lunch and that it's siesta time, let's talk about the technical nitty-gritties. So yeah, leading up to this, right, we've had a couple of good keynote conversations. We've heard from Rene already on his point of view in around the smart metering value chain. And so now let's take this opportunity to dive deeper into some of the aspects, and we'll start with meter data management, right? Let's talk about that a little bit, and I'll build on the analogies that we've been using, right? In the first panel, we spoke about Band Baja Barat. We spoke about the digital letterbox, a smart meter as a digital letterbox, and then Rene had this whole. I can tell he's like a massive Formula One fan based on everything that he was talking about when he did his presentation, right? So perhaps that's a conversation we have when we meet in person, Rene. But yeah, so to build on those analogies, right? I mean, if you were to talk about the smart metering value chain, the smart meter itself right? If that's the mouth of the body, then MDM is the heart, right, across the value chain, because it's MDM is the application that your HES acquires the data from the smart meter, feeds it to the MDM. MDM is where the computation for billing happens and is fed back to your customer information system, or to your billing system, right? So today, as we have this group together, we have folks from CUCULUS, Esyasoft, Siemens, Oracle, right? Solving for the same problem, coming in a little bit differently, right? So I think it's going to be a good conversation to have, right? So what I'd like to do is to start with why MDM is even needed in the ecosystem, right? Like why can't we just go from acquiring the data, feeding it to billing, and be done, and then talk a little bit about benefits that MDM provides, and also get into data analytics, AI ML use cases, and how we can build from there, right? As all of this comes together. So while folks have heard from some of you, why don't we quickly go around the horn, do a little bit of an introduction, since there may be some people who've joined post lunch, and then get into the conversations. So to start out, Beryl, can I invite you to just quickly give an intro and a quick 2 to 3 minutes point of view on the smart metering ecosystem as a whole, and then specifically around MDM.
Yeah, thanks, Shardul. I think I have a slide if it can be pulled up. And if I could get a hint when the slide is up.
Hi team, is someone pulling Beryl's slide up?
I think if you can try from your end, Ms. Beryl.
Okay. I can also go ahead and...
Ma'am, I think you'll have to do it from your end.
Hold on. Okay, I hope it's visible. Should be okay if I can.
Yes, we see it. We see it.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks. So very good afternoon to everyone on the call, and extremely happy to be part of this forum. My name is Beryl. I've been with Siemens, I think in the introduction it was shared, close to 18 years, more than that actually, 2 decades soon. And always been working with utilities since the very beginning, whether it was on the OT side, now on the IT. And I head this business for the country. What I thought was the best way to introduce for the next 2 or 3 minutes on the importance of smart metering was to actually talk about the fact that we've done this, and we've done this worldwide. We've got about 100 million meters connected. We have it currently at IESO, where we've got 5 million meters already connected to the system concurrently. But what gives me more pride is the fact that we've also done it in India. And this is why I wanted to bring this introduction that as Siemens, we're extremely happy and proud to be partners with our customers in their smart metering journey, having done it worldwide, and also helping our customers traverse these challenges of smart metering also in India. So I would like to talk a little bit about the project we did in Tata Power Delhi. And this was our very first project that we implemented by ourselves in India. We have a strong team also locally placed. And what we bring is, when we discuss this with our customers, we also, I heard the discussions all through the morning, the importance of being able to leverage the experiences you've had in deployment elsewhere, so that you can minimize the challenges that come through when you're deploying it locally. And what better time to be able to deploy it now, when we're looking at an ambitious plan of rolling out 50 million meters, which is a trust given from the ministry to be able to enable discoms also become financially viable. So in Tata Power Delhi specifically, it's the integration with the AMR systems, with the AMR, with multiple head-end systems, and I think that's some of the important aspects. It's also important from an MDM to be able to check the integration capability with multiple systems. So also the fact that we've deployed it on the OT side, the integration with the outage management system. So this is also what we've actually done jointly with Tata Power Delhi in India, which is the integration with the OT landscape. And MDM, while it's the heart, as you correctly said, Shardul, it's that bridge also that we see between IT and OT. And that's extremely critical to have that bridge so that you can have this flow of data, get transparency on the LV side, and then be able to leverage this data to be able to benefit and have concrete use cases that can actually, help our customers with their business priorities. So with that, I'm happy to be part of the panel and contribute to the discussions here.
Thanks, Beryl, and welcome to the conversation. Wayne, can I go to you next for a very quick introduction?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Wayne Van Eyck from Oracle Energy and Water. You may have previously known us as the Oracle Utilities Global Business Unit, and we've recently had a name change to just show what's been happening over the last number of years, which is an expansion into so much more than just a utility focus and looking across not only the utility industry, but other industries as they're affected by the changes that we're seeing in energy and in water. One of the things particularly of interest to myself, looking after the Japan and Asia Pacific region for many years now, for about sort of 15 years, is the journey of starting out with smart meters, doing pilots in various places, various markets as such, from a fully deregulated market like Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, the likes of Japan that's starting through, and then of course India and all of the opportunities and challenges that are represented, many customers using many components from our solutions and working with other great partners as we have on the panel here today. And I think the thing that we're seeing is a shift from I think the analogy is good, and we can all share in it, this analogy of the device having perhaps being the sensors, the mouth, the eyes, and the ears out in the field, out in the customers, out in the utility space, and then being able to provide that rich data set, the communications back and forth into the utility and into other energy sectors. And I think looking at India as an example, it represents something which has always been the case for smart meters and meter data management, which is around accuracy of data, management of the grid and the customers and revenue, but then also represented by the current new innovations that are happening, which is using that data throughout the organisation, the digitalisation. Ms. Beryl spoke of the OT IT convergence that we've seen, and what we're seeing now is a third pillar, which is the customer technology convergence, strong focus of customer engagement. The prepaid billing in India again is another good example, which is not just representing a revenue management exercise, but an ability to connect and educate with customers, which are more and more part of the operation of the grid as we look into distributed energy resources, investment in the grid, and investment in technologies going forward. So I think meter data management is one of those, to use another analogy, perhaps from Disney, is a Cinderella in the basement, working away, managing the data for a lot of time now, pushing it through to billing. And what we're seeing now is, of course, the opportunity, a ticket to the ball and being able to share that data throughout the organisation. So really exciting times. And I think India is very well positioned to be able to take advantage of that with some real world challenges and the ability to innovate beyond that.
Thanks, Wayne. Taking Cinderella to the ball. I like that. I'm much better than my heart analogy. But yeah, no, hey, good to have you here, Wayne, and looking forward to the conversation with you as well. So yeah, very quickly, if you can just go on to Mr. Kamal Sen for a quick intro.
Well, Shardul, this is Alfred here. Mr. Kamal Singh has not joined us for some specific engagement. I am replacing him. Can I take over? Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We've got like for like or better replacement. So please go for it.
Okay. Thank you very much. So glad to be a part of this summit, and thank Aayera and the team to let us participate this. Well, I represent Esyasoft Technologies, and we are less than a decade old. We are a 9-year-old company based in India, and now we have an office in Dubai as well. As you would see, I'm operating from Dubai together with my CEO. Well, if I have to give you some input on what we do, I'll just take you on to. Let me just see if we can share my screen quickly. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Okay, so now so we started our journey into this by getting into the smart meter data management application to begin with, and what makes us different is that we started with making an MDM specific to smart meters. We were fortunate enough to work on that. So our initial their deployment was the first pilot in India when the smart metering pilot started in India way back in 2014. That's where we delivered our first ever smart grid, smart meter and smart grid based meter data management, and that's where we moved on. And from then onwards, we have been moving on in this, and we have now a very good presence in the country. And as you would see that we have connected to over 16 million meters in the country. And these include smart meters, the normal meters, the AMR meters, the 11 kV feeders as well. We also have connected to over 750,000 smart meters, which are online at this point of time. And one of the important aspects is that we have connected into a web SCADA integration as well and done it. So that apart, as I mentioned, as I got to hear from the panelists earlier, yes, the MDMS is no more an MDMS. It's becoming a central repository for the whole system, for the whole utility operations. As you would see, I come from a SCADA background over the years, and I would see where a couple of decades ago, the whole network used to be a SCADA-centric network, what was called as a SCADA-centric, and the whole thing would revolve around a SCADA. Then after 10 years later, that is 10 years ago, it started moving into a GIS-centric. And today, I can tell you that it is a MDMS-centric. Now, the MDMS has become sort of a centralized repository for the whole system. As you would see, the MDMS connects on the lower side at the meter point. Then it goes on to connect. It can even integrate with the existing SCADA, and then it can expand itself, metamorphosize into a substation monitoring, which is a mid-layer in the network. As you see, the system has a 132 kV network, which is already SCADA connected. Then you have in between the medium voltage transformers, and then you have the low level AMI. So MDM now is not limited to meters alone, smart meters alone. It goes beyond that. It is now expanding into a condition monitoring system for the transformers, so that the sub-transmission level also gets monitored. So the idea is that the MDM is going in the right way. It has got the capability to integrate with multiple systems, and thereby providing a centralized repository and centralized data for the entire utilities applications, and whereby the utility has a direct connect with the customers' data, and thereby can enhance its operational operations and increase its benefits from the insights that it derives out of it. And that's where Esyasoft is driven. Esyasoft is also driving a sort of a substation monitoring system, which is an extension of the AMI MDMS. And what makes us quite sought after or respected in the country. We respect our customers in India, and we have been respected because India is a different geography, and we continue onwards with trying to meet with what the customer wants. The customer, we work together with the customers, and I'm very happy to say here that our customers are extremely pleased with us, because there are very complicated applications that needs to be built in the MDM, and add-ons to be built, multiple solutions to be incorporated and integrated, and that's where our strength comes into. And we continue to work in this, and we intend to make a bigger impact at this point now. And so that's how maybe later part of the discussion we would discuss more on the actual use cases that we discussed. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alfred, for that intro. And then from there, Yogesh ji, can I come to you from there? The audience has already heard from you, but would like to quickly hear your perspective on what you're looking to get out of this conversation.
Yeah,
Yogesh ji.
myself Yogesh Kumar. I represent the UPPCL, the largest meter installation utility in India. We have installed approximately 11.450 lakh smart meter in UP itself, in different towns of UP, 48 divisions and 12 towns of UP, covering all area of the large towns of UP. We have installed the system with the support of the we have the meter manufacturer with the Genus, ITI, Jain, and after the meter communication partner is Vodafone, and we have the HCS of Finland and MDM of Oracle. Oracle partner is here in webinar itself, and RMS. We have the our RMS revenue management system that is also on the Oracle platform. However, ERP is on the SAP platform. So this is the our structure. We have installed the meter. Presently, from the last month and last 2-3 months, we are giving the billing percentage to 99.75%, 73% to the consumers regularly. So this is our achievement and stability of the system. However, in the different stages, we have got the multiple type of issues. You can say that when we start the issues from the installation, at the level of installation, there was a different type, multiple type of registration from the consumer and utility people also, and our staff as well. And after installation, there is a multiple type of issues when we are going to install the meter, then tagging of the meter, connection tagging, and tagging at the HCS, and after tagging the integration with HCS, registration process of meter SIM in HCS, and after that integration with HCS to MDM, and MDM to RMS portal, RMS billing system. There was a multiple issues. And after the facing the multiple issues and resolving the taking care of the every issue, we have taken care of the a consumer whose bill is not generated in the any month. We have got analyzing the consumer, why the bill of that consumer is not generated in last month. Then we remove the issues, and in this process, we have reached to the stable process of the smart metering in UP. That is giving the 99.7375% billing per month to the consumer, and with the all type of satisfaction. Not even billing, consumer is having the all type of integration with the any type of billing system, payment gateway. He is getting the mobile application. He can do payment through the mobile, through web application, through Paytm, through any type of billing procedure. As well, he can fetch their data, take see their readings, as well consumption, daily, monthly, yearly consumption for the mobile application. So all this is presently we are very better position that our system is stable. And however, there is a multiple challenge which are to be coming in future when we are going to implement the 2.55 crore meter in UP itself. Then there will be multiple of type of challenges. As when we talk about the MDM, that we are talking about MDM, then there is will be multiple of type of challenges we have to face. The basic challenge we are going to face in future is that we have the HCS, we have the one system with MDM and second system HCS. So major challenge with MDM is coming is that the integration process with the different type of HCS. So because we have not having any type of protocol or standardization of HCS MDM integration. Similarly, HCS and communication integration. However, we are having the protocol of DLMS smart DLMS meter, but this standardization is not there. When we talk about the multiple mobile application and other things, then also we are find the same type of difficulty because we have not having the standard protocol standardization in India. So we have to going to face the problem of this type of the problem in India itself in future. As in UP, we are floated the tender for 8 clusters. Each cluster is having the roughly 30 to 50 lakh smart meter to be installed in one cluster. So basically, we are going to take 8 HCS in future. When 8 HCS are integrated with the our MDM system, then how the data flow and multiple type of issues will be coming in. Is coming to the stabilized system in future. So these are my perspective, basic perspective about the smart metering and its system and experiences. Okay, thank you. Carry on.
Thank you so much, Yogesh ji. And my one request is, please hold on to some of the issues that you mentioned, right? That you can bring up in the latter half of the conversation, so that we can get some reflections from the panel as well as to what their thoughts are on some of these things that we are seeing on the ground. Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad we're hearing about this probably from the most complex installation in India, right? So hey, last but not the least, Rene, if you could go next. I know you had a session before lunch, but perhaps there are folks who have joined us post lunch, and so if you could do a quick introduction, and then we can get into the conversation. You're speaking on mute, Rene.
It always happens at least one time, right? Sorry, thank you much. I said I have also prepared a few slides, but they will be very fast. So in the last session, I talked more about the general hurdles to implement the project. So we all have heard a lot about what is possible, but at the end, you need to get it on the road on the street to use the analogy for the Ferrari racing car again. So what we do on the MDM side is that we have developed this Sonos IoT platform, how we call that. That's the only product we do. And this one you can actually use for, let's say, smart residential metering, industrial metering. I'm differentiating here between the two. For both, MDM is applicable. Industrial metering you can also see as the how to say, more a soft SCADA version, what we have heard before from Alfred from Esyasoft. And on the other side, there's also the sub-metering. So what is beyond the meter? All that meters like water meters, gas meters, which are normally not part of the focus of the electricity provider, but we are talking about a smart metering infrastructure, which is the same. So your key is actually to get to the customer and then to gather its values and to optimize it, as we have heard also from Mr. Yogesh. So why not offering that as a service to other utilities, for example, the water guys or also the sub-metering company? So there is a big opportunities to resell core competence to other players in the market. That's what we have prepared the platform for. Again, IoT stands for the fact that we can gather plenty of data, but also from plenty of different devices, not only smart meters, because nowadays to really have a full-fledged MDM, you have to be able to also deal with a lot of other devices, sensors or actors, if we want to have it more technical to fulfill the job. Now, what is the MDM? And we have used a little bit the different word, but actually saying exactly the same. So it's an exchange hub to connect different types of applications, the one of today and also the ones of the future. And that is actually one of the most important things. So you need to route data to the right applications, to transform the data into formats and into, let's say, sub-functions, which can be understood by other specialized software tools. And what we think is that the MDM should be a kind of a platform approach. So working together with other market players who have maybe better solution than you have or we have, coming to the best setup for the customer. Of course, one thing is extremely important, and that is the data acquisition part. Not only to deal with different head-end systems and different types of sensors, but also to just manage the sheer amount of data which is coming into the system. That is a little bit a challenge here for an opening for the panel discussion. Of course, we think that we are the fastest ones in the market. So just to give you a number, we are able to process approximately 1 million meter reads per second in the platform. I think nobody can beat that at the moment. And on top of that, I already said, so there should be, let's say, we call that modules, something around that, which is connecting to the core of the MDM and is providing additional functionality, for example, forecasting, analytics like the loss analytic, but also the fraud detection, automatic fraud detection, or things like what you might have now also in UP. That's a meter indexing. So to help actually to really identify where you have wrong data connected, wrong master data connected to the meters, and how you can do that automatically and correct them also automatically without big efforts. Yeah, and again, we think that people is the most important one, talking is the most important one. So we do that out of our team of approximately 100 specialists in the utility sector who are helping to transfer the knowledge of plenty of projects we have done implemented on electricity, but also on water and gas projects around the world. And that's it, what I wanted to show as a little intro who you're talking with.
All right, thanks, Rene. And yeah, if you could just take the slide off as well so that we can see the rest of the folks.
Right,
so while you do that, yeah, there we go. So yeah, so let me come to you itself, right? I mean, we've been talking about data, and then some of the key concerns that Yogesh ji also brought up was around interoperability and how if I get a certain MDM, how's that going to integrate and talk with HESs of other makes, and then from a scalability perspective, as as the project goes along and you bring in more smart meters from various vendors, how does the whole interoperability work? So what's your point of view on that, Rene?
Okay, so that tackles actually a couple of questions in one. So on the one hand side, of course, we are, I would say, honored, or I don't know if you can say honored, but when we got up to build the system, we started somehow in the middle, right? So you see actually players coming from the more legacy stuff, from the billing side down to the MDM, and you have players which are coming more from the technology, meter, and communication side up to the MDM. But when we started, there was nothing. So we do not have any legacy on the software side, not on the technology side. So we started with something which works actually. And that means we also need head-ends. So in our genes are also head-end solutions. So the platform can be an MDM, but also a head-end. But this is not necessarily what you have to apply, but we understand the head-end. We understand the communication industry, communication solution. We understand the meters. So this is actually what we have built in. So we know let's say the natural extension points, how to deal with multiple head-ends, because everybody has a different philosophy in his mind when he's implementing head-end solutions. So if you have, for example, PLC solution providers, they will have a head-end system which actually acts and is optimized only for PLC. So you're talking not to meters, you're talking to gateways. When you actually talk with somebody who has a head-end system for, let's say, NB-IoT, that's a point-to-point head-end where you have to address meters directly. So these kind of things, philosophies in the structure, how they use their processes, how they structure their data, is a must. And we have actually implemented that in a way that we call that certain templates, how we talk with different head-end systems, which also involve things like register and profile mapping. So sometimes they have to shorten the name of the profile. You know, in DLMS or in SIM, you have very long identifiers, and an RF mesh cannot afford to transfer that. So, but we don't enforce the has to change. We adapt to the has, and that is possible via configuration. The same is actually with events is one of the biggest problems in integrating multiple has systems. So normally the MDM need to unify the events of the has, because the has of vendor A will use a completely different identifier for an outage information than of vendor B. But at the end, the operator in the MDM should always see the outage information and not need to differentiate between the different vendors where this event is coming from. So this is also up for scalers. So that means that parameters going back and forth require to be scaled up and down to the unit what the head-end system is requesting. So all these actually we found out over the years integrating many different head-end systems and many different communication and network management solutions to our MDM part.
Got it. And that concept of having templates ready, right? I think that helps you visualize how you're actually tackling this as far as different technologies go. So that's to me that's helpful to understand how y'all are going about this, right? So yeah. let me just build on that one, and Wayne, I'd like to bring you in since we are talking integration. So, you know, while we spoke about the integration on the other side, right, between MDM and HES, there's also this challenge to be tackled for integration with the revenue management system or the customer information system, the integration with the customer portal, outage management system. So you know, from your perspective, Wayne, how do you see all of that coming in, right? Because that becomes important. That's because those are your customer-facing portals.
Yes, thank you very much, Shardul. And I think Mr. Yogesh summarized things quite well in that, you know, challenge after challenge presents itself with these types of integrations. And you've got two main things happening. You've got the integration of very different technologies, as Rene has mentioned, you know, different things out in the field, different new and legacy technologies within a utility and other players. And then the thing that really spices things up is the volume of data that we're talking about. So gone are the days of, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, you know, we're dealing with millions of data points over very short time periods, very different formats, those type of things, and that's coming in to the organization. So there's a concept of scalability, and it's twofold. Like I think again, as Mr. Rene has shown with his introduction, that the concept of scalability of processing has been solved, which is great. You know, we've got the ability to move data like never before. But one thing that represents a huge challenge is scaling the business, because we can't just throw more bodies at it. We need to be able to manage that process. So there's a challenge there that overlays this integration piece. So from an integration perspective, you have three main pieces that need to work together. You have the transactional data, this volume of data that we're speaking of. And then you have the administrative standing or various security and market data, which needs to be replicated across the organization as meters roll out, as markets diversify and customers and various attributes within a market that may have previously been static start to change at an alarming rate. And then the third integration piece over the top of that is, in fact, business process integration. So what we're now talking about is this combination of huge volume of traffic, the ability for it to change constantly over various technology platforms, and then the ability for the business to keep running. And not only keep running and do what it did yesterday, but to be able to innovate off of that chaos, shall we say. So when we look at integration, what we see is, you know, there's various versions of that. So absolutely, there's a templating type process where we can get a speed to implementation, and we can work to standards to help standardize that. Then there's a requirement within the organization from a digitalization perspective to be able to modernize various parts of business processes and standardize those as well, and then be able to use various technologies to integrate them. And then there's the ability to not only move the data throughout the organization, but have a single source of truth to be able to, how do we take the burden of all of this data and turn it into the value to the organization. So we see a couple of things happening where from a technology perspective, there's various different technologies, as Oracle Energy Water as part of the wider Oracle group. There is a huge amount of, cloud technologies, on-prem data warehouse, data lake, lakehouse technologies, all of the analytics elements that are available there. But what we've seen is that as soon as you move the data, it costs money, effectively, costs the utility money. And you have a risk around managing a single version of truth for some of these things. So what we see is a combination of being able to move the data to the right places in the organization, but then also be able to have some of the integrations and some of the business process be just in time or just when you need it. So when we talk about RMS systems, your billing systems, your customer systems, you want to have record integrity across the organization. This is the customer, this is their details, this is their 360-degree view. And then the transactional data, which can move across that. So if we look to some of the newer technologies and the way that they're changing for customer engagement, web portals, mobile apps, those type of things, it's not about moving all of the data all of the time to all of your systems, because they will not like it and it costs money. So it's about providing data just in time. Which customers want that data now? Which ones don't care? Or when they go and look at it, that's when you give it to them. So it's these types, it's that combination of moving the data to the right place, making sure that you're maintaining the integrity, and then absolutely managing the efficiency of how that goes within the organization. So there's a lot of things in there, but that's a summary of some of those concepts, which I'll be happy to talk in detail with as time permits.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot to unpack there, right? I think the important one that I gather from this one is it's about customer centricity, right? I mean, once you get all of this data that you're capturing from the smart meters, it's not only about delivering value to the utility, but also, enhancing and delivering that value to your customers, and how you go about that in an agile and nimble fashion, right? So yeah, so thanks for that. I think, there's, like I said, there's lots to unpack there, but let's move on for now a little bit. So Beryl, let me come to you. We're talking already about such complex installations and this humongous amount of data that's going to be passed through the applications, which will then have to be archived, maintained, per what Wayne said, presented when the customer demands for it, right? So with all these complexities, how do we go about, look, getting this implemented is one thing, right? And perhaps we all come together, we make this submission, we get done with this, and then we dust our hands, we walk away. How do the utilities then go about maintaining this, right, and keeping it together? So what are your thoughts on that piece, Beryl?
Right. No, thanks, Shardul. Very well said, because the MDM is your single source of truth, and it's got these multiple interfaces. So it's not just you getting data in and data out, but it's going to multiple interfaces and you need to have the data processed. You need to have the right data being sent out, because only then it makes sense to work with that data and be able to analyze it. But I can tell you from our experience, there are challenges. So you can't implement or do the system or go ahead and execute without any challenges. There are challenges during implementation. There are challenges post-implementation. Now, how do utilities tackle those challenges post-implementation? First, it's the experience you bring in implementation. So you have to strive to get the implementation right. And how do you get it right? By doing it in partnership with the utility, with your implementation partner, by actually working together to be able to ease and get your implementation correct in the first place. It will result in fewer challenges, not zero, but there will be few challenges. Now, what do we see with this vast amount of data coming in, with so much of complexity? Topics like learning to use an MDM. With any new enterprise technology, the organizations will go through an initial adjustment, which means, how do you use the MDM? How do I use the software on a daily basis? What kind of reports do I need? What am I looking for? What is the MDM really capable of? One is to get the data, but how do I exploit that software? So that's the initial challenge we are seeing when it comes to maintaining the capacity building. Now, every utility, every discom in India is at a different level of maturity. A different level of maturity when it comes to software adoption, a different level of maturity when it comes to infrastructure. And the designs required for these utilities, whether after implementing and then helping them sustain, is different from utility to utility. So how can we actually help limit or mitigate these challenges? One, when we've worked with utilities elsewhere, when we've learned from experiences in other utilities, leverage that experience. And during implementation, get that right. Address the challenge beforehand, preempt, predict, be able to look at what could come up so that you can educate. And, through education, you're able to actually do things a little better. Through experience, through advice, you can do things a little better. Consult, partner. The second challenge, that's on the capacity building side, which we've seen. And utilities that are now mature have, getting more into doing analytics with the data, because that's where I'm currently, when I talk to customers, that's what I hear. How do we really use this data to our benefit? How do we use it to our advantage? Fine. I know what AMI is. I know how to maintain the system, but now what do I do with the data? So that's one level. The second is when you've just first implemented it, which is in our case, we're scaling right now in India, right? So when we first put the system in place, you will also encounter some technical issues at the time of scaling. There's a significant amount of data passing. You will have issues in integration. So how do you actually mitigate those challenges that you have in maintenance? That's with standardization. To a very large extent, how can we standardize a lot of what we're currently doing? And here, I think I resonate exactly with what REC is doing, with what was spoken about also at the keynote. The test bed, measures like these, putting a test bed in place where you've actually tested, you've been able to prove. At scale, you will have challenges. We're not saying no, but at least you've overcome that initial hurdle of checking whether that entire ecosystem works. because the MDM is an ecosystem business and you cannot view it in isolation. You do not know if your data is not coming from the meter, or if it's the head end of the MDM is not processing it, or the customer has received the wrong bill. I mean, you have to be able to look at it holistically end to end. And that's the topic which is important, because when you're also implementing the system, the stages of implementation matter. Are you putting an MDM without actually having your meters installed first? What is the stages of implementation? Accordingly, the challenges build up, because accordingly you start building the experience and putting the entire system together. And building on these, this is what we've seen happening currently in utilities. But I think with the measures that are being put in place with REC now as a nodal agency, realizing the importance of getting this implementation right, that's going to be pivotal for success of smart metering in India. So through the test bed, by actually testing scenarios ahead of time, by actually implementing use cases that the DISCOMs currently want, where they see benefit, because even the DISCOMs are now getting mature. Everyone's getting informed. As we're implementing smart metering, through summits like these, there's a lot of information being shared, and that's actually DISCOMs getting informed. And then through partnering and working together cohesively with the entire ecosystem, that's going to be, in our view, pivotal and important to be able to address these challenges. And it will also help maintain the system and scale, because with urbanization, it's like adding one city to India in the next couple of years. So, we're talking 250 million smart meters. I don't think we're stopping at that. We're really going to grow. And, I proudly say as a country, we're going to grow more. So it's getting that right. And then, setting yourself up for success to scale. That's our view with it.
Got it. Thanks, Beryl. And I think one thing that, perhaps also, with paucity of time, we won't be able to hit on, but would have liked to hear some of your thoughts also on, the data purging and archiving strategy that utilities should adopt, right? Yeah. Did you want to come
hello,
in, MC?
Everybody. Hello. I have a few questions from the audience. So the question.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Can you hold off for a second? I'll bring you in.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I think
Thanks so much.
it, so I'm happy to take that point maybe later, or even send out information on it if that helps, so that the other panelists can also come in and share their views. But I will take that action item. Thank you.
Yes. And I just wanted to come to Alfred before we get into the audience questions, right? So very quickly, Alfred, we keep look, the end-to-end value systems come together. Our day-to-day operations are working fine now, right? That's what through everything that we've been discussing so far. And Rene said it during his presentation. What about that buzzword, analytics, right? And AI and ML, and what can I do with all of this data that I am getting? And all the utilities are, like Beryl also mentioned, utilities are asking this question saying, okay, I'm getting this data, what do I do with it? So Alfred, some of your thoughts on what's next in this journey for us.
Well, as you rightly brought out, the MDM has been a repository for all kinds of data. And what we see is the data that comes in our MDMs, in which we have deployed one of the largest deployments in India. And we are glad to have worked with at least 7-8 utilities and have a first-hand experience of what are the issues. What issues Mr. Saxena talked about integrating the HES, etc. All these are the issues which have been faced by us, and it's like a trial by fire that we have gone through with at least 7-8 utilities, and we have really made it up to their expectations and trying to go beyond the expectations. So that apart, yes, with a lot of data coming in, utilities are asking us. For example, as I showed you earlier in my earlier slide, we have data from so many systems coming up, not just the meters. Now we are getting the data even from the scalar, the normal meters, the monthly read meters also. And we are purging them together. And then we are connecting to, in one of the cases like MP, where we are doing a statewide deployment of integrated MDM, on which I'll be talking about tomorrow. So this statewide implementation supposed to connect to over 20 million. And right now we have put on 16 million meters, which are connected, which are, not to mention anything, purging in a lot of data. And this data, how are they going to be using? I'll just bring up a small slide to show you and bring out a couple of points, what we're talking about here. And I'll not be taking much time. So what the capability of MDM, which we have seen, and whatever I'm mentioning here are the ones that we have actually deployed. to the extent that the data is available, that the data we have captured. Well, demand forecasting on the short term. See, the short term demand forecasting is something which has become a reality now. Like we have been able to forecast with every 15-minute data with the data that we ourselves captured for the project area. And that's been giving a very good thing. And this is definitely a possibility with the MDM data. MDM is good enough to provide all the data. And what you see on the right-hand side, yes, whether a MDM can do it, yes, it can do it. It can provide all the data. It's expected to do that. Now I'll straight away jump to the third item, identification of energy theft.
Hey, Alfred, just my quick request would be, we got 4 minutes. I want to make sure we get the audience questions in. So if you could just quickly summarize, I read all of these, I'm sure the audience.
I'll do that. Yes, I'm going to be highlighting just a couple of them. One of the most important analytical approach that is expected and that's being taken up here is the non-technical losses. That me and you are aware that there's the biggest issue here. And how this could be done, this is being done by modeling huge assets data, huge consumer data, customer segmentation, and all these are the ones that are the analytical capabilities that are built in our application, and this is being doing justice. And for example, you would have heard from the customer from Indore and others that a huge amount of theft have been shortlisted, and they have been identified by means of grouping them and bringing them together. And that is the very biggest analytical use case, which not only uses the rule-based, but also uses the big data analytical approach, including clustering and other aspects of the analytics applications, and thereby bringing in benefits to the customers. So what I'm trying to say here is, yes, there are more than 10-15 use cases which are directly connected to MDM, and the MDM is expected to build in and to provide all this, and this is what is being provided in our applications. At the same time, there are some more data that can come from the external systems as well, and that would collate together with the MDM. As it was rightly said, MDM is a repository, and you have all the data coming in, and you could be building a number of models on this and trying to get valuable information and insights from the system.
Thank you, Alfred. Very, very useful. MC, would you like to come in and just also share some of the audience questions, please?
Yes. Questions are just pouring in, so I would just pick a few of the questions. The first question is for Mr. Alfred. Kindly provide a view on Esyasoft MDM to provide facility to remote connect, disconnect of meters, power status verification, power restoration verification, and on demand read of remote meters. This is for Mr. Alfred.
Well, whatever items have been asked, actions have been asked, much more than that is being done by the system. And of course, I can definitely tell you all these and more are being done. And especially in a remote connect, disconnect, even be it RF-based network or a 4G GPRS-based network, these are being done and these are very effectively done. And now we recently came across a situation in the country a few months ago that a huge number of meters were for unknown reasons got disconnected. Yes, that is the biggest challenge. And then we have made various provisions. We have multiple checksum in that. We have multiple authorizations required brought in here. And at the same time, we have also limited that at any point of a time, disconnections cannot be given for more than a specific number, depending on what the utility, and that would avoid. So any such commands that goes in for disconnection for more than a fixed number, they are automatically avoided. And then there is a token-based, SMS-based approvals also required for this. So there is definitely a protection available, and the on-demand as well as cyclic data, every 15-minute data, and the unsolicited data which comes straight away on an event. All these are being recorded, and that is a huge input that it gives for managing and bringing out analytical use cases.
Well, thank you. I have another question for Mr. Wayne. What are the data security strategies from Oracle? This is for Mr. Wayne.
Thank you very much. Yes, so one of the areas I myself am not a data security expert, but with Oracle as a whole, we have a great data security offering. One of the short comments is we provide embassy level security. So that's something which, as of embassy grade and across the organisation, what we see that being applied with is we have on-prem, cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid solutions being provided, and it's the ability to not only standardise security and identification across the organisation, but be able to provide key authentication, encryption, patches and updates, and maintaining that across the organisation as a whole. So I would certainly recommend parts of the panel and also of the audience to please seek out our security experts, unfortunately of which I am not one, but it is an area which we have a lot of information of, and we work very closely with our customers to provide.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Rene. How to improve utility back office operations and understanding the potential of the AMI investment. This is for Mr. Rene.
I mean, that is maybe one of the most tricky questions. It's nothing what we can do alone again, right? So that needs to be done hand in hand. We need to understand what is actually the potential for saving, for making more cost savings, let's say, to pick it out and to really realize it, and at the same point in time to do even more to enable more opportunities what can be tackled with the same team of operation. So the key is actually that the whole system will grow with the different stages of the organization. We have heard that from Beryl already. We exactly see the same. Everybody is in the same different stage of maturity, and that needs to be reflected in the system. So for example, at the beginning, everybody is very proud on his system. So he wants to have statistics which are showing this 99.75% success rate of reading. Whereby later on, when the team is getting more mature and have millions of meters, they want to see the 0.03% of failures to tackle only them, because the rest is totally uninteresting. But you have to go through this learning phase and adapt actually the system to where the customer is at the moment. And I think there are so many different opportunities to make the operation for the people who are sitting there and working on it much smoother with the technologies we have nowadays. We just have to find them together. So we normally do that. We call that witness days, where we just go with the customer, sit with them, and just watch for a couple of days what exactly they do. And then we are able to understand what kind of things we can enable in the software, in the solution, or we can change in the solution to make their life easier. That's the approach we do.
Well, one last question very quickly. This is for Ms. Beryl. The question is, DISCOMs have the responsibility of ensuring the personal data of consumers. So what are the views on privacy standards? This is for Ms. Beryl.
Yes, thanks. In this case, I think coming from also the European side, being the organization that's pretty heavily focused on GDPR, on guidelines, on security, on privacy of information. I can actually confirm that the system, at least Energy IPS and MDM, has been designed and built in such a way that we're able to put measures in place to be able to secure these systems. So we support the GDPR guidelines. At the same time, like I said, it's an ecosystem. So you have your data going, whether if it's on-prem, it's within your scope, within your area of influence. If you're getting onto cloud, it's possibly a topic that then needs to be addressed in conjunction with the cloud service providers, with the IT service providers as well, as to how best we're able to secure this data and information. And I hope that answers the question.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks all the panelists. I think we have to close it up because we have another, the one last important question. Now, this question is for Mr. Alfred. How can we minimize processing time and ensure sufficient flexibility to accommodate future system changes? Last question.
The future system changes is a continuous process. It's going to happen. There is no way out of it. It's nothing like that you will deploy a system and be done with that. And then definitely the customer needs support on a continuous basis. And that is where an Indian provider or the implementer needs to be considerate about. And yes, in spite of having deployed every utility is a new case, and even in every utility, there are different departments have a different use case kind of a thing brought in here. And that is where it is necessary that the MDM has to be flexible to be able to adopt and be able to, even the last mile guy who supports the utility in its operations or in its support at the support level should be able to make tweaking into some of the other aspects and be able to add on the new functionalities or a new additional functionalities brought in. And that is where the strength lies. That is where the bonding lies between the MDM vendor and the utility customer, because this is inevitable and this has to be brought into the MDM. And that is the only way you can say the MDM and the utility, MDM vendor and the utility will have a everlasting partnership built in. I suppose that answers.
Well, thank you, sir. We have to wrap up quickly. We are running short of time. We have to wrap up and continue with the next panel discussion. Thank you, all the panelists. Thank you, moderator. It was very, very interactive. And we really have the good information through this particular session. And once again, I would like to thank all and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks to the panel, and it's great to see familiar faces on the next one. So, happy to sit back and listen now. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.